The laughter stopped mid-sentence. Jimmy Fallon's famous grin froze on his face as he watched Ariana Grande reach for her phone with trembling hands. What started as a light-hearted interview about her new album suddenly became something no one in the Tonight Show studio was prepared for. It was supposed to be a typical Tuesday night taping. Ariana sat across from Jimmy in her signature oversized hoodie, her hair pulled back in the high ponytail that had become her trademark. The Tonight Show band played softly in the background, and the audience was buzzing with excitement. They'd just finished a hilarious game of musical beers, and Jimmy was asking his usual getting-to-know-you questions. "So, Ariana, you've accomplished so much at such a young age," Jimmy said, leaning forward with genuine interest. "When you look back, who's been your biggest supporter through all of this?" The question was innocent enough. Standard interview fare. But something shifted in Ariana's expression. Her usual bright smile faltered, and she looked down at her hands folded in her lap. "My dad," she said quietly, so quietly that Jimmy had to lean even closer to hear her. "My dad was everything to me." The past tense wasn't lost on Jimmy. He'd been doing this long enough to recognize pain when he saw it. "Tell me about him," he said gently, his entertainer persona giving way to something more human. Ariana looked up, her eyes already glistening. "He died when I was 7. Cancer. But before she paused, reaching into her hoodie pocket. He left me something." She pulled out her phone, an ordinary iPhone that suddenly felt like it held the weight of the world. "He knew he was getting sicker, so he started leaving me voicemails. Just in case. But there's one." Jimmy's throat tightened. In 15 years of hosting, he'd heard countless stories, but something about Ariana's voice, the way it cracked on certain words, told him this was different. "You don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with," Jimmy said, but Ariana was already shaking her head. "I want to," she whispered. "I've never played this for anyone. Not my mom, not my brother, not my closest friends. But I think he'd want people to know." The studio fell silent. Even the Roots seemed to sense the gravity of the moment and stopped their quiet background playing. 300 audience members held their breath. Ariana's finger hovered over her phone screen. "He left this 2 days before he died. I was at school, and when I came home..." She couldn't finish the sentence. Jimmy reached across and gently touched her arm. "Take your time." Ariana pressed play, and her father's voice filled the studio through her phone's small speaker. It was weak, clearly the voice of a very sick man, but warm and full of love. "Hey, my little star," the voice said, and Ariana immediately began crying. "Daddy's not feeling so good today, but I had to call you because I just saw you singing in your room, and baby girl, you took my breath away." Jimmy's eyes filled with tears as the voice continued. "You know what, Ariana? You're going to change the world someday. You're going to make music that helps people feel less alone. And when that happens, when you're up on those big stages making everyone smile, I want you to know that Daddy is so proud of his little girl." The audience was completely silent now. Some people were crying openly. Jimmy wiped his eyes with his sleeve, not caring about the cameras or his professional image. But the voicemail wasn't over. And sweetheart, her father's voice grew even softer. "I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll always remember that you're loved. Even when Daddy's not there to tell you every day. Even when things get hard and scary. You remember that you are so loved. Can you promise me that, baby girl?" There was a pause on the recording. And then Ariana's 7-year-old voice, tiny and innocent. "I promise, Daddy. I love you too." "That's my girl," her father said. "Now go show the world that beautiful voice. I love you to the moon and back." The recording ended, and the silence in the studio was deafening. Ariana was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Jimmy's face was streaked with tears, and he didn't even try to compose himself. Without thinking, without caring about protocol or show format, Jimmy got up from behind his desk and went to Ariana. He knelt beside her chair and pulled her into a hug as she cried into his shoulder. He was right, Jimmy whispered, his voice thick with emotion. You did change the world, and he is so proud of you. I miss him so much, Ariana sobbed. Some days I call his old number just to hear his voicemail greeting. I know it's stupid, but it's not stupid, Jimmy interrupted, still holding her. It's love, and love doesn't die with people, Ariana. It lives in voicemails like that. It lives in your music. It lives in every person you've touched with your voice. The audience began to applaud, but it wasn't the usual Tonight Show applause. It was gentle, reverent, the kind of clapping that acknowledges something sacred has just been shared. Jimmy pulled back and looked at Ariana. Can I tell you something? She nodded, wiping her eyes. My dad died when I was young too, Jimmy said. And for years I thought the pain would get easier. People told me it would. But you know what I learned? It doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. And every time you sing, every time you perform, every time you make someone smile, you're keeping his voice alive. Ariana looked at Jimmy with an expression of understanding that connected them beyond the typical host-guest dynamic. Do you think they can hear us? Like really hear us? Jimmy smiled through his tears. I think that voicemail is proof that love is louder than death. He's not just hearing you, Ariana. He's singing with you. The show ended differently that night. There were no games, no comedy bits, no promotional segments. Jimmy and Ariana just talked about fathers and loss, and music, and love. The cameras kept rolling, but it felt intimate, like a conversation between old friends, rather than a television interview. When the episode aired 3 weeks later, it became the most watched Tonight Show episode in 5 years. But more importantly, it sparked conversations about grief, about love, about the voicemails and texts and memories we hold on to when we lose someone important. Ariana later said that sharing her father's voicemail was the most terrifying and healing thing she'd ever done. And Jimmy? He started ending every show the same way. Tell the people you love that you love them. You never know when it might be the last chance you get, because sometimes the most powerful moments happen when the jokes stop and the heart starts speaking. And that Tuesday night, in a television studio filled with laughter and lights, 2 people reminded the world that love really is louder than anything else. In the weeks that followed, something extraordinary happened. The Tonight Show received thousands of letters from viewers sharing their own voicemails from lost loved ones. Parents wrote about children they'd lost. Children wrote about parents who were gone too soon. And friends shared final messages from those they'd never see again. Jimmy kept Ariana's father's words close to his heart. During his monologue the following week, he looked directly into the camera and said, "If you have someone you love, call them tonight. Leave them a voicemail. Tell them exactly how you feel." Because Ariana's dad gave her the greatest gift possible, his voice saying, "I love you forever." Ariana, meanwhile, found an unexpected peace. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was carrying her grief alone. The voicemail that had been her private treasure became a bridge to healing. Not just for her, but for millions of people who understood that particular kind of loss. 3 months later, Ariana returned to The Tonight Show. This time, she brought her acoustic guitar. "I wrote something," she told Jimmy, her voice steady now. "For him, for everyone who misses someone." She played a song that night that she'd never recorded, never performed, never shared with anyone. It was called Voicemail, and it was about holding on to love, even when the person is gone. Jimmy sat behind his desk, tears streaming down his face, as Ariana's voice filled the studio with pure, raw emotion. When she finished, the audience rose to their feet, in complete silence for nearly 30 seconds before the applause began. It wasn't just applause for a performance, it was recognition of something sacred, something healing, something that reminded everyone present why music exists in the first place. Jimmy walked over to Ariana and hugged her again. "Your dad was right," he whispered. "You really did change the world." "We all did," Ariana whispered back. Together, the episode with the voicemail became more than just television. It became a movement. Voicemails of love started trending, with people sharing the last messages from their loved ones. Grief support groups began using the episode in their sessions, and somewhere, in the space between laughter and tears, Jimmy Fallon and Ariana Grande proved that the most important conversations happen when we're brave enough to be vulnerable. That Tuesday night changed everything, not just for them, but for everyone who learned that it's okay to miss someone, it's okay to cry on television, and it's okay to let love be louder than loss.